I'm going to talk to you about detaching from accusations. I talk a lot about detaching in my written material and in my classes and in my videos because detaching is a very, very healthy and powerful principle that you can apply to your difficult relationships. And detaching is healthy for all relationships. People do it in healthy relationships automatically. We need to learn to do it in our difficult relationships. And what it simply means is to let it go, to not take on what somebody else does or says or believes, because you are a separate person who can make a decision yourself about what you believe and what you think and what you experience. You don't need somebody else to tell you. You can make your own choice. I don't care if that person is your spouse. I don't care if that person is your parent or your mother or your child or somebody that you really look up to. You are a separate individual before God, and you have your own feelings, your own thoughts, your own opinions, and you get to stick to those if you know that that is true, okay, for you, and that is your experience. So what is an accusation? It's something that someone accuses you of, and you're going to detach from it. So when someone says to you, you're blank, you can fill in the blank. What is it? Mean, stubborn, proud, stupid, naive, controlling, jealous, unfaithful, lazy, whatever it is, fill in the blank. What is someone accusing you of? You're blank. Someone says that about you, you've got to say to yourself, is that true? Am I that? You've got to know yourself. You've got to have an awareness of who you are. You've got to be able to separate yourself from what's said so that you can say, is that true for me? If it is, even occasionally, then own it. Yeah, sometimes I am. I'm sorry. I'll work on that. Okay. You can admit to something that's true. That's healthy. You don't want to just detach from everything and be defensive and say, nobody's going to ever say anything negative about me or criticize me or say anything about me. I'm perfect. I'm okay. No, you probably know people like that. That's not healthy. You want to basically be able to stand back and say, is that true? Okay. And if it is sometimes true, if it's safe in this relationship, like I said, you own it, you admit it, you work on it. And maybe you have to ask somebody else, is that true sometimes about me? Somebody you trust that will be honest with you, that isn't against you and doesn't see, that sees you honestly, and find out, is there truth to that? But if it's not true, then you have to detach from it. You've got to let it go. You've got to say, this isn't true. That is not, so I'm not perfect. I've got faults, but that's not one of them. And in this particular relationship, that is not true about me. And this person is using this accusation to control me or to get what is wanted, to get their own way, to get me to give in, to get me to give up my own rights, my own power, to get me to manipulate me, to get me to, do something that isn't in my own best interest, or maybe isn't healthy for the relationship. So if it isn't true, you might, if you're capable and the person is capable of thinking about their own self and why they might be accusing you of something that's not true, maybe you can have a conversation about it. Okay, you're telling me that I'm mean, or you're telling me that I'm lazy, or you're telling me that I'm selfish. Help me understand why you think that. And then maybe to say, I'm not sure why you think that, because I don't see that behavior that you're describing as selfish as being selfish. I see that as self-care. If this person is open to a conversation and can hear you and allow you to explain yourself, then great, have a conversation. But if this person is not capable of having a conversation, then you might want to not put yourself through the stress and the strain of having a conversation about that. There's some wisdom to that. You might just say, hey, that's not true. And maybe you might say to the person that's not true, but not try to explain why it's not true, or not try to get the person to agree with you that it's not true. So what are some of the reasons that somebody might accuse you of something, but then not be able to have a reasonable conversation about it? And one of those is they might be projecting their own behavior, their own problems onto you, things that they can't own in themselves. I've been in relationships where had somebody accuse me of being mean and very hard-headed and hard-hearted and unwilling to look at myself, which was absolutely not true. Again, I wasn't perfect, but that was not true about me. I was the opposite. I was overly looking at myself. I was overly taking responsibility for things that weren't even mine. And I was willing to go to therapy and look at myself and see what I was doing wrong. And I was almost giving myself, like I said, too much responsibility. So those things were not true. However, they were true about the other person who was absolutely unwilling to look at themselves and see what it was that was contributing to the relationship problem. So projecting their own behaviors onto you, their own problems. The other one is defensiveness comes from not taking on the responsibility and being willing to look at themselves. So it's like being blind. People are oftentimes blind to their own behaviors. So yes, maybe they're projecting it on you, or maybe they're just blind to it and they're accusing you of something and they have no understanding as to why. It could be that they are accusing you because they have an agenda. And the agenda is, like I explained, is to get you to do what they want. Like if I accuse you of being selfish, then you're going to give in to what I want right now. And you're going to do everything I want you to do. And I'm not even going to have to explain why, because I'm just going to accuse you of being selfish, and you're going to give in. So the accusation could be come with an agenda. Also, somebody could have a distorted perception of you and be so convinced that that perception is from their own distortion, that that perception is true, that you can't convince them. No matter what you explain, you can't convince them. This could come from somebody, for instance, I was explaining like selfish, somebody who is very dysfunctional and who has a belief system that says, never put yourself first. And anytime you put yourself first, the person is selfish. Anytime a person cares about their own needs and puts their own needs ahead of the family, that person is selfish. You are probably not going to convince that person that you're not selfish. So you get to choose, how much energy do I want to put into convincing this person? Or do I just want to save my strength and save my energy and not try, and just basically detach from it and say, I'm not going to change them. I'm not going to convince them, but I'm not going to believe it. So there are, you know, all kinds of reasons why you might want to try to explain it to the person, but there are lots of reasons why you're not going to get anywhere. And we always have to take that into consideration in dysfunctional relationships. Now, if the accusation is a legal accusation and it could hurt you, then you want to protect yourself. If the accusation is affecting you in your job, in your other relationships, then you have to make a very wise decision as to what do you need to do to either talk to the people who are believing it, or are hearing it, or to present the evidence that you need to protect yourself or to defend yourself. All of these are very important decisions. You might want to get counsel for them. You might want to talk to somebody else who is wise, and or go to, say, HR at work, or consult with an attorney. So there are some accusations that are dangerous and can hurt you. I have had circumstances where people have asked me about accusations that have been made about them that could have legal ramifications by a family member, say of abuse or something. And those are very serious accusations. If somebody is accusing you of something like that or suggesting it, and that could get you in legal trouble, you do need to be very wise about how you handle things like that. Or accusing you of stealing money from somebody, say that you're a trustee of a trust, or somebody's accusing you of stealing money from an elderly parent. All of these are reasons that you have got to be careful. So this is, again, talking about detaching from accusations. So I hope that this has been helpful. I hope that you are familiar with my website, changemyrelationship.com, all of my resources, including my books and my studies. And I hope that you have checked out my studies that are on my 10 relationship changing principles, one of which is detaching with love. And I often make the statement that if I can teach you to detach, I can set you free. And it is absolutely true. So thank you for watching this video on Change My Relationship.